I'd like to officially welcome you to Sell More Books with Amazon Ads with Geoff Affleck. One more thing before we get underway. I just want to thank this month's sponsor, Barbara Kyle. Barbara is a novelist and an editor and a teacher. She has a free webinar that talks about how to write a page turner. And you can access that webinar or register for that live webinar at the link you see on your screen. Every month, I do have a sponsor for my newsletter, Electric Speed, and that sponsor also gets this mention during the free class. So thank you, Barbara, for sponsoring my newsletter and this free class. All right, let's move on to Geoff, today's guest. So Geoff Affleck, some of you may know I have him listed in my resources as someone that you can hire and trust if you are looking for someone to help with your Amazon ads. And he has graciously offered to give you some free training today. He has written a number of books for writers. He's worked with authors for more than a decade. He has an MBA as well as a bachelor's degree in marketing. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, he lives on Vancouver Island. Um, a beautiful part of the world, which I've been to briefly. I hope to eventually get back there. And I have a few of his book covers there on the slide. You should check out his Amazon page if you want to see the full library of titles that he's associated with. So Geoff, I'm going to hand things over to you, and I won't interrupt unless I see there is a burning question that absolutely must be answered.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, thanks, Jane and Mark, and thank you everyone for being here today. It's great to spend this time with you and talk about Amazon ads. Sounds like we have a mix of experience levels with Amazon ads. Some of you probably never done any advertising before. Others have dabbled and maybe stopped because you wasn't working or you weren't sure what to do. And then there's probably a few people who've had some good success or maybe getting close to breaking even and are trying to figure out how to ramp it up and scale it up. So what I'm going to cover today are kind of an overview of what Amazon ads are. We'll talk about some tips for setting them up and then what to do once your ads are set up as far as managing and optimizing them. So let me go like this. I've got a presentation here on a slide deck. Plus, we're going to be going live into some of my clients' Amazon ads accounts, so you can see in reality what I'll be talking about. So here we go. How to sell more books with Amazon ads. We'll be covering why use them, how to set them up, how to manage them. I'm going to take a couple minutes. I think that was okay, Jane, just to mention my Amazon ads management service, but it's not going to be a heavy sales pitch or anything like that. And then we'll do Q&A at the end. And if you have a question, as Jane mentioned, just use the Q&A box on the Zoom controls to park your question. We'll get to them at the end. Okay, let's go. I'm going to skip this slide because Jane's already introduced me. So this will just help us to manage our time a little bit better and go straight into why would you want to use Amazon ads? Well, obviously you want to sell more books. But here's how they work. With Amazon ads, and if you're not familiar with them, I'll give you a quick look at what they look like in a moment. But basically, they're pay-per-click ads. People see a little thumbnail image of your book when they're searching on other books. They click on it, and a certain percentage of those people who click buy your book, or they read it in Kindle Unlimited. As a result, you get more orders and more page reads than you would have if you were just relying on organic sales. Now, this has the effect, of course, of as you sell more books, you get a higher bestseller ranking, or I guess a better bestseller ranking. The number gets smaller. And as a result, as people are discovering your book because it's higher on the bestseller charts, Amazon also will start to share your book for free a little bit more. You get more organic orders and page reads. KENP is the Kindle Unlimited page reads. You get more reviews, and so the circle goes. And there's a term that is used in the industry called sales velocity. And simply like this: if you're selling 50 books a month, let's say organically, you might find that you start selling 75 or 100 books a month because of the catalyst effect, or catalytic effect of Amazon ads. So Amazon ads can speed up your sales velocity because of the way that it plays into the Amazon algorithm, which gives you more recommendations for free. And of course, if you have a series, you get more read through. So that's the theory on how it works. They're a catalyst. Here's a live example. One of my clients, Jason, he only has one book, came out about a year ago, and the blue is this is from his Amazon reports, not Amazon ads, just his regular KDP reports page. The blue is how many sales he's had each month since the book came out from January to October, and we could extrapolate up to date, but I haven't done that. You can see pretty nice growth, right? 75 to 100 to 150. In May last year, we started Amazon ads, and the orange, I've kind of superimposed the orange, and that tells you, that shows you really clearly what the ads did. So in May, we saw perhaps, what's that, like about 50 sales come from Amazon ads right in here. And the organic sales remained steady. But then in June, we grew the sales from the ads a little bit more, but the organic sales became higher. And so it went, and so look at October. So there's that effect. And now we went from 75 orders here to about 350 in October, and the ads contributing about 40%. Should have seen December. I might have that for you later. So that can be the effect of Amazon ads. Now he is up to 7,000 books sold as of the end of March. So the ads been a huge contributor to that. Here's another example. This author had several books in, I think, 2 or 3 different series. So all these little colored things represent individual titles. So the blue, I believe, is book 1 of a series. So before we started the Amazon ads, you can see there, she was selling a little over an average of about 1 book a day. I think it was 1.3 books a day in here. And then you can see almost an immediate change when we started the ads. And she went up to about 4 books on average per day in this area, right? So that's largely attributable to the Amazon ad. So this doesn't work for everyone, but it does appear to be working for most people, where you'll get a boost in your organic sales because of the Amazon ad. So then it's a matter of looking at, well, how much do I have to spend in order to make that happen? All right, so hopefully you're excited about the possibility. Let's take a look now. Actually, before we jump into setting up ad campaigns, I just want to go over and just show you some. Just going to bring up a page here, some Amazon ads. Let's see if we can just give you a quick example of what they are in case this is something you're not familiar with. All right, you should be seeing Amazon right now on your screen. So let's say we were looking for a book of some kind, and I don't know, it doesn't really matter if we're in the Kindle store or the bookstore. We'll go to books here, and we'll look for I don't know, historical romance. We'll see what comes up. Okay, so you get some search results. Now, quite often you'll get an Amazon ad right at the top here, and I'm not sure why I'm not getting them, but here are some. Whenever you see that word sponsored, you'll know that you're looking at Amazon ads. All of these across here are sponsored. Sometimes you'll see some sponsored ads mixed in with these organic search results. This is a video ad that's also sponsored. Yeah, so interestingly, today I'm not seeing sponsored ads mixed in with the regular listings, but that's okay. Now, if I click on any one of these books, I'm not going to click on somebody's ad because that would cost them. All right, we're going to scroll down a little bit, and okay, so these here where it says frequently bought together, those are not ads, but this is free advertising. That's ultimately what we're trying to get to. Same here, customers who also bought or read, not ads, because there's no sponsored, but that's what you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to a place where Amazon recommends your book for free. But down here, sponsor products related to this item. This is where the vast majority, probably about 90% of Amazon ads display up or show up, is on other books pages. And you can see here there are 58 screens of 7 ads in each of these carousels. 58 times 7 is about 400. So there's about 400 books being advertised. Here's one of my past clients right there, on this book. And so your job as an advertiser is to figure out which books you want your book to show up on. And obviously they would be books in the same genre, the same category, similar authors, and so on. And so the real skill in Amazon ads is in targeting. Targeting means where you're going to show your ads. And that's what we'll talk a little bit about today. Notice the ads themselves, there's nothing to them. There's no creative. Unlike a newspaper ad or a Facebook ad, authors often ask me, well, are you going to create the ad? Well, no, Amazon will create the ad. That's your cover, that's your title, there's your reviews, and that's your price. That's basically it. There is the opportunity to add a little bit of, you see this in italics here? This is called custom text. That's an option that you can do. I'll tell you now, I don't do it. We've done testing. We found that it doesn't actually improve sales, so we don't do it. And the reason is that I think Amazon shoppers are used to seeing this, and whenever they see this text, it starts to look a bit more like an ad, and we don't want it to look like an ad. We just want them to click. Right? Now, if anyone clicked on any of these books, there would be a cost, and that cost is variable, and it's based a lot on how competitive the targets are, how much you're willing to pay, your bidding strategy, a number of factors. But it could be anywhere between as low as 30 cents, or it could be as high as $1 or even more per click. So you really have to do your math, because if you're spending $1 per click, and let's say you only sell one book for every 10 clicks, well, how, you got to figure how do you get a return on $10 of ad spend when you're only making $3 in royalties? So you've got to be a little bit careful about how much you're willing to bid for your ads. Okay, so those are Amazon ads. You'll probably find more as you scroll down the page. Here's some here. These are video ads. Anyway, they're everywhere, and you can't avoid them. And if you're not doing them, and your comps are, then you're probably not getting the impressions that you ought to be getting, and therefore you're not getting the sales. You're missing out on sales by not advertising. Okay, let's go back to the deck here. Talk a little bit about setting up ads. So first of all, if you don't have an Amazon ads account, you have to open one, and you can do that in a couple of ways. One is, if you're in KDP, click on the marketing tab in your KDP dashboard, and you'll see Amazon ads. You have to set them up separately for each market. In other words, if you want to run ads in the US and the UK and Canada and Australia, you have to set up 4 different sets of ad campaigns, one for each country. So you open up your account. If you're not with KDP, you can go into Author Central, and there's a tab there. I think it's called Reports and Marketing, and click on that, and you'll see Amazon ads, and there's a door in there. And then you can open up your account, put your credit card in, and off you go. When you're ready to set up your first campaign, you're going to see there's 2 basic flavors of ads: sponsored products and sponsored brands. 90-something% of the ads that we do are sponsored products. They're the easiest. They're the ones for beginners. Sponsored brands include video ads, which are a little more advanced, and they also include ads where you have at least 3 books in either a series or in your portfolio where you would want to advertise them together. So start with sponsored products. That's the first step. There are different ways of targeting your ads. I mentioned this earlier. Targeting is super important. So here are the different flavors. There's automatic targeting, which means you basically tell Amazon, these are the books I want to advertise, and Amazon will figure out where to place the ads. And for many of you, that probably sounds like the easiest route, and it is. The downside is, if you don't have a very strong sales history, Amazon won't have much of an idea of where to target your ads, and your ads won't get many impressions. Impressions mean how many times they get shown. So we usually find with automatic ads that you don't get many impressions, therefore you don't get many clicks and you don't get many sales. So I recommend that you don't start with automatic, start with manual. And manual is where you have to create a list of keywords or products to target shoppers. And it's a bit more work, but you'll find that you'll get more impressions, and more impressions always mean more clicks, and more clicks mean more sales. So set up manual targeting for your first couple of ads. Then within manual, there are two flavors, keywords and products. And just as they say, keywords are words that you use to help your ads display. So they could be, I think of three types of keywords. One is genre or trope keywords, so historical fiction, billionaire romance, self-help happiness, that type of word. Another kind of keyword would be other book titles. A Girl Called Samson, What the Wind Knows, okay? And another type of keyword would be author names, Amy Harmon, all right? Whoever you want to think of, right? So those would be the types of keywords. And you want to have a list of about 100 keywords. Where do you find them? Well, you got to do some research. If you have Publisher Rocket, that's a great place to find targets. You can use the Amazon Ads tool in Publisher Rocket. You can do a reverse ASIN lookup on a similar book and see what keywords people are using for that. Lots of ways to find keywords. Second kind of ad, manual ad, is a product targeting ad, and that's where you choose. Here's what I do. I usually choose about 3 to 5 categories and maybe 10 to 20 individual books, and I'll use that as my initial target set. And then from there, we start refining. And I won't go beyond that. So I always set up 2 ads at the beginning, 1 keyword, 1 product, no automatic. Maybe later I'll do automatic once I've trained the algorithm on what works for these books. Okay, the next a couple of the other things that you need to know about is bidding strategy, and it's very confusing when you look at it. Basically, this is you're going to set a bid for each of your targets. Let's say it's 50 cents, and that's how much you're willing to pay for a click. Dynamic bids up and down is the default. And what that means is that even though you bid 50 cents, Amazon might raise your bid by a maximum of 100%, in other words, to $1, if your ad is more likely to convert to a sale. How do we know that? I don't know. I think it's based on history. And they may lower your bid if it's less likely to convert to a sale. So it's a bit confusing, but it's one way of doing your bidding strategy. I'll go to the next one. Dynamic bids down only is, let's say you bid 50 cents, you'll never pay more than 50 cents, but you might pay less. So for many of you, you would think, well, that makes sense. That way I can keep my costs under control. The downside of that is that you often get fewer impressions for your ads, and that's not good. So I rarely use down only. Fixed bids is a great strategy where you bid 50 cents, you always pay 50 cents. So there's no up down. You've got good control over your bid. And if you're running ads right now and you're not getting many impressions, switch to fixed bids and you'll find that your impressions will take off. And that will help you get more clicks. So we mix it up with our clients depending on the client, depending on how well the ads do. We may do up down, we may do fixed. We often will start with up down, and then if impressions aren't where we want them to be, we'll switch to fixed. So you're kind of your choice on that, but don't do down only. Okay, a couple of other things you'll notice when you set up your ads. They ask you about bid adjustments. Leave all this at 0 for now. You may want to change it later on. And what that basically means is that top of search means occasionally, about I don't know, less than 1% of the time, your ad might be the very first ad that shows up on the search results. If you want that to be higher than 1% of the time, will you increase your percentage on your bid? Let's say you put 50% in here. Well, then instead of paying 50 cents, you pay 75 cents, and therefore you get more opportunities to be at the top of the search results. And for many authors, that's a good strategy because when you're at the top, you usually get more clicks and often you'll get more sales. But you at the beginning start with zeros and then you can make the adjustments a bit later on. All right, a couple other things in the settings. On the left is what the default looks like. This is the last part of the setup. This is what you should make it look like. Change the campaign name from this, which is time and date, to something that makes sense to you. I always use the book title, and then if it's a keywords ad, I'll put underscore and then the word keywords. If it's a product ad, I'll put underscore products. If it's the first ad, I might add a 1 at the end. If it's the second ad, I might add a 2 at the end. But that way, when you're looking at it in your dashboard, you know what kind of ad you're dealing with, and just put anything else in there that makes sense to you. But this up here doesn't make any sense. Portfolio. This is great if you have multiple books or multiple series. Think of a portfolio as a folder like you have on your desktop for your files on your computer. So create a folder, a portfolio, and put your ads in that portfolio that are associated with that particular series or title. And that way it's much easier for you to look at the results on an individual series or title level. I don't use end dates. We just leave our ads open-ended. Some teachers recommend that you'll do an end date. The problem with that is that you're always having to create new ads, and I don't like to create new ads all the time. My philosophy is create ads and nurture them. Other teachers will tell you to create, 5 ads a week, and then I've met many clients who come to me and they've got literally 500 ads. I said, well, how do you manage those ads? Well, they say, I can't. So I like the idea of having a small number of children and nurturing them really well, rather than having a lot of children that you don't know where they are. Daily budget, they're going to give you a default. I believe that right now their default is about $12 a day. I would usually go with 10. You may not spend it all, but it does give you a bit of a cap. If you only spend 5 on one day, they might take that 5 and apply it to the next day. So on average, you'll spend 10. And you can also set a monthly maximum in your portfolio. So let's say you say, I don't want to spend more than $600 in a month. Well, you can set that as a cap so that you'll never go over that. But be aware, you may run out of money if your daily budget is too high. You might find by the 20th of the month, you've spent your $600. So you've got to monitor your budgets quite carefully. So those are just some tips on setup. So manual ads, set one up for products, one up for keywords, and use either up, down, or fixed bids, $10 a day. All right. So hopefully that gives you some parameters for setting up your ads. Okay, let's go in and look at some actual campaigns so we can make some more sense of what I just said to you. Okay, we're back over here. So I have permission from some of my clients to show you their ad dashboard. I'm going to go to this first one. Now, this is the book that I showed you in that slide earlier that had the orange and the blue columns on the chart. It's the basketball IQ book. And actually, let me just bring up the book first of all. It's always good to start here. Oops, not the best typist. There it is. Okay. Actually, what I should show you, if I can do it, is if I type in, whoops, basketball book, see if we can get his ad to show up. Okay, well, there's the book in question. That's not an ad. That's the organic search result, which is actually what you want. I'd rather people were clicking on that than the ad, because then I don't have to, my client doesn't have to pay anything. Interesting. There's his ad. Oh, here's his ad. You see it says sponsored. So there's his ad right in there. So you can see it's quite a bit of competition in basketball books. This is really a book for basketball coaches and players with skills and techniques. Okay. So we've been running ads for quite a while. And when you come to your dashboard after you've been running ads for a while, you get hit with this sort of overwhelming screen with all of these numbers and lines and metrics, and it's like, oh my God, how do you deal with it? So um, first of all, you'll notice that we've only got 3 ads here. That's all we've ever run for Jason. We've never run more than 3 at a time. Right now, we're only running 2, the keyword and the product, just as I described earlier. We've been running them since May 6th. And there's a date range here, which is quite handy. And you can go back to lifetime, and we can go back to May, and you'll be able to see some stuff here. These metrics at the top, you can always change. So if you want to see one that you're not seeing, you can change it. I always like to see the following metrics: impressions. Impressions tells me how many times my ads are being displayed. And you can see here, 250,000 in a month. Look at December, it was a huge Christmas gift book. 750,000 times his ads got shown. The other metric I really like to see is clicks. Clicks is the orange line, and you can see, as I mentioned earlier, clicks generally follow impressions. As impressions rise, clicks rise. Okay. Orders, I've already got, that's blue, and orders usually follow clicks. As you can see here, as the clicks have been going up, the orders went up. In December, we had a massive number of orders, 900 orders, in fact. So those are important metrics. If your book is enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, which I don't know that he is anymore, you can see how many page reads you got. So his book's not really, I think we took it out of Kindle Unlimited back here. But for novels, that's a really important metric to look at. And so, you can see all of these things. So what should you be looking for if you're running ads right now? Let's just do 1 month here. We'll do last month. Okay, so this is March 1 to 31. We had 265 impressions. So what's a good number of impressions? Well, it depends a little bit on a few things, on your budget, on how competitive your genre is, how popular your genre is. If you're advertising a book on, I don't know, how to buy a franchise, you're probably not going to get that many impressions because there's not that many people looking for a book like that. But I'd say about 10,000 impressions a day is a pretty reasonable number, and he's just a little bit under that. Okay, so that's the 10,000 line right there. Okay, so impressions I'm okay with. Click-through rate is basically it's what fraction of the impressions result in a click. And that looks like a pretty small percentage, doesn't it? But our goal is actually 0.1, which means for every 1,000 impressions, if you're getting 1 click, you're doing okay. Jason's getting almost 4 times that rate. So he's got a very good click-through rate. I'm not surprised because it's a very niche book. Okay, so I could show you on someone else's dashboard here. If I look at their click-through rate, we're going to see it's much lower. Okay, 0.07, but we're looking for about 0.1. 1 click for every 1,000 impressions. So that means you need to get a lot of impressions. If we take a typical day here, 8,000 impressions, you got 38 clicks, and from 38 clicks, you got 5 orders. And the ratio that we're looking for is 10 to 1. So for every 10 clicks, we'd like to get 1 order. That means for every 10,000 impressions, you might get 10 clicks and you might get 1 order. And those are the good metrics. Anything better than that, like we're getting here, we're very happy with. This is a very, very successful campaign. Okay, so those are some of the metrics that you're looking at. You also want to look at things like cost per click. There it is, cost per click. He's paying 85 cents per click right now. That's the green line. You can see it's been fairly steady over the month. We want to monitor that, make sure it's not getting out of control. And there's a few other metrics in here that are kind of interesting to look at, but those are the main ones. I will tell you about one here that's not such an important one, and that is sales. You'd think, well, gosh, sales would be pretty important, wouldn't it? I'm also going to pull up spend. Okay. All right. So last month, Jason spent $833 on advertising. His sales were 2,273. Look at that and you say, well, that's great. Well, that's the retail value of the sales. That's not the royalties. Royalties is a different number, isn't it? We know that you make 70% usually on ebooks if you're in KDP, and often on paperbacks, you're only making about 30% or so because of the printing costs. So depending on the ratio of ebooks to paperbacks that you sell, you might say you're making about an average of 50% royalty, right? 30% on paperbacks, 70% on ebooks, split the difference, 50%. So his royalties are actually about half of that number. So 1,100. So he's still making a profit, $300. That's great. But remember, this does not include his organic sales. And his organic sales are probably another 300 books on top of the 150 here, on which he makes a full profit. So overall, this guy's happy. He's making a profit on his ads, and he's making an even higher profit on the organic sales on top of that. So what you want to do when you're calculating your if you're making money or not is look at your overall royalties from your KDP dashboard or wherever you get your reporting numbers from, and then compare that to your advertising costs. And that's how you figure out if you're profitable or not. Okay, so there's just a few things to look up or to look at. I also want to show you one other thing is that when you first come into your Amazon dashboard, I'm going to get rid of this. I'll just hide the chart here. You're going to see the ads and a bunch of numbers down here. When you're just getting started, you're going to notice that, I'll just set this back to default, that it looks like this. These are the default columns. And you don't always see all the numbers that are important to you here. So what I would do is this, set up your columns like this, customize the columns. And these are the ones that I think are most important for you to see. You want the start date and the budget of your campaign. You need to see your impressions. You see how they didn't give you that. You don't need these next two. You need clicks, click-through rate, spend, cost per click, orders. I don't care about sales, and page reads if your book is enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, which he is not. And by eliminating all of these ones that are not that important, it's much easier for you when you're looking at your dashboard now to just kind of see the important metrics at a glance. And there was one more that we needed, and that is called advertising cost of sales. Okay. So as I look at these two campaigns for the last month, I can get a quick snapshot. I'm getting more impressions on the keyword ad and more clicks on the keyword ad, and the click-through rate is better on the keyword ad. So this is a better performing ad. My cost per click is a little bit higher. My orders are much higher. And then ACoS is also a good metric to look at too, especially if you just have one book. They're both pretty similar, but I'd say this one's looking a little bit better. Cost of sales is ad spend over gross sales revenue, and I'm looking for about 40% for this client is the break even. So he's a little bit better than break even on ACoS. So we're pretty happy with that, and I can compare over a long period of time whether those numbers are going up or down. All right, so those are some of the kind of the big picture of what you'd want to be doing in your ad campaigns. And I can just jump over to fiction, because I'm sure a lot of you are in fiction as well, and we'll drill down into some of these ad campaigns and see what they're doing. So all right, this book is, I'll show you the book. So this is a standalone novel. It's literary. He hasn't done a lot of flashy stuff here. Hasn't really even written a great book blurb, which is kind of interesting. Doesn't have much in the way of A+ content, just a little bit, but yet it's got a pretty good bestseller ranking. And it just seems to be a really great, one of those really great books that just gets lots of word of mouth referrals, and the Amazon algorithm loves it, and it gives it a lot of free advertising as well as the Amazon ads. So if we look at Alex, let's look at a sort of little bit longer period, year to date here. Okay, so we can see. Let's look at the top line here. Remember with some of those metrics that I mentioned, impressions. Okay, so he's getting lots of impressions, at least 10,000 a day impressions. So that's good. Want to check his click-through rate. We wanted 0.1. He's getting 0.35, so we're happy there. 4,600 clicks, 463 orders. Remember I said 10%? And that's almost exactly a 10% conversion rate, which is great. And we're looking at his advertising cost of sales to see are we being profitable or not. Just like Jason's, around that 36% mark. That's very good. He would be happy with this because I know that he'd be selling. I know in Alex's case, he sells 5 times more books organically than he does through the ads. So he'd be pretty happy with this. And the ads are just acting as a catalyst to help boost his organic sales. And he doesn't have any read through. Now, here's the interesting thing with Alex is that we've only got one ad running. He's decided that he's just going to have a limited budget. It's $20 a day, and we discovered that the keyword ad performed much better than the product ad, so we just put all the money into the one ad campaign. So I want to drill into the keyword ad and just show you kind of how the ad is constructed and how to start interpreting the results and managing the ads once you're in there. So all I did was clicked on the blue text, and that took me into the next level. And I'm going to show you the bid adjustments. You remember that was something on the setup where I said leave it all at 0. Now, we've now actually made some little tweaks here on Alex's because we've got some history and we know that it's a good idea to do bid adjustments. So here's why. Out of the million-plus impressions, 5,000 of them, Alex was at the top of the search results. Okay, and we're willing to pay a little bit more for that. But the click-through rate is way higher when he is at the top, isn't it? 5% click-through rate. That's astounding. Okay, so we know when you get to the top of the list, you get a higher click-through rate. And we paid a little bit more, only, 6 cents more to get to the top. We're happy with that. But look at the conversion rate. We got 50 orders from 300 clicks. That's 1 for every 6. And the ACOS is only 23%. So it pays. I might even want to boost that even higher to try to get more of that action. But I've got to be careful I don't increase my ACOS too much. So this is a great example of where being at the top of the search results is a real payoff. Most of the ad impressions, though, is on product pages. That's where you see, that's these kind of ads here. That's what that means. All right, so most of them are there. And even so, his click-through rate's decent, and but he's not quite getting the 10% conversion rate. 2,500 clicks, we'd like to see 250 orders. He's not getting it. So we're bidding a little bit lower for those types of ads. And bidding a little bit higher for the top of search results. So that's a thing to keep an eye on, and you can always make adjustments to those things. Also wanted to check the campaign settings. All right, so you'll notice that we're doing fixed bids for Alex. If you decide to do fixed bids, doing the bid adjustments is a good idea. If you do dynamic bids, bid adjustments will potentially really increase your cost per click. So be careful. If you're going to do dynamic bids, I'd be very careful about doing bid adjustments. Okay. Now I'm going to click on ad groups because I want you to see the keywords that we're using. Oh, interesting. It says out of budget. And that happens when you have a limited budget and a very popular ad, is that you actually spend all your money before the end of the day. And I believe that's what's happening here. And the only remedy for that is to increase your budget. You can't adjust the timing of your ads and say, oh, I'll only show it from 4 in the afternoon to 10 at night. Ads always start at midnight and they stop when they run out of money. All right, I'm going to click on the blue text again. I'll get rid of the chart here. All right, so you can see we are advertising 2 books in the same ad. That's the Kindle edition, that's the paperback. And I recommend that you do just that. You could run separate ads for your Kindle edition and separate ad for your paperback, just more ads to manage. We throw them both in the same campaign. And if there's a series, we'll put them all in the same campaign. I'll show you that in a minute. We'll just put them all in there, and it works just great. So that's what we're advertising. Targeting is where we've told Amazon to show the ads. Okay, so we have some keywords. Sometimes you have to stretch these columns a little bit out. All right, we have 318 keywords. We would have started with under 100, but as we've gone along, we've learned which keywords work for Alex and which ones don't. And if I get rid of the enabled, you probably notice here that we have way more keywords, but we've turned, hang on a minute. We turned quite a few off. So we've turned off 400 of them. There are 700. All these ones have been turned off because they didn't work as well as the ones that we have now. So I'm just going to do that filter by active status is enabled. Put that back the way it was. Okay, so we have 300 keywords and lots of data. So when you're optimizing your campaign, and you probably want to look at it at the beginning, every week or so. There's no point looking at it every day because you need to allow time for data to accumulate before you make decisions. So it's kind of like if you buy a stock, you don't just like watch it every single day and hope that it goes up. You're in this for the long term. So let it run for a little bit and then come back and take a look, make sure nothing's getting away from you, nothing's overspending. And what we're trying to do now is figure out which of the keywords are the best. And all of these columns can be sorted just by clicking on the word in the column header. I click on the word impression and it will go from least to most. Well, that doesn't help. So I'm going to click again and it'll go from most to least. Okay, so out of 1 million impressions year to date, 175,000 have come from the keyword Kristen Hanna. And we've got 300 clicks and 35 orders, 10%. Great ACOS, pretty happy with that keyword, and that's only a 39-cent bid. I'm just going to scroll to the left a little bit. Now, interesting, Amazon is recommending that we spend between $1 and $1.66 for that keyword, and yet we're only spending 39 cents. How is that possible? Well, it's because he's getting good results. You don't have to necessarily be in that range to get impressions and clicks. But at the beginning, you might. And as you prove yourself, the algorithm will reward you by giving you impressions of your ad, even if you're not bidding full price, because it's basically looking at it as, is your book making Amazon money? Okay, so Alex is in an enviable position here. Here's another keyword, books bestsellers. Wow, that is such a broad keyword, yet it's generated 80 orders this year. That's probably his best keyword in terms of actual volume of orders, and it's a pretty good cost of sale too. So sometimes just a phrase like that can be dynamite, and we're only bidding currently 25 cents. Be curious to see if we go to a shorter time range, 30 days. That was looking at the year to date. It's that one there. Yeah, it's probably a bit higher, even though our cost per click is higher than what we're bidding. We might have recently turned that bid down. I don't know why, but anyhow, very nice. So you can see here which keywords are getting the most impressions. You can also sort by click. You can also sort by orders. So here's a couple of rules of thumb for you. If you want to prune back the ones that aren't working so well, you can sort the cost of sales column here. And all right, so here's a great example. Remarkably Bright Creatures. only had one order from 22 clicks in the last 30 days and a very high cost of sale. So I would be tempted to turn that off because it's kind of wasting our money a little bit, right? But before I do that, I would want to make sure that that it was just not maybe a short-term anomaly. So we might look at year to date and just to see whether, now I think it was remark. You can do a keyword search here to pull it up. Year to date, though, we've had 5 orders from 49 clicks. It's actually been pretty good. So it's just been a little bit soft lately. So be careful about turning off things that maybe just recently haven't done that well, because in the long term, they might still be a good keyword. So what you might do in that case is perhaps just reduce the bid instead of turning it right off. Take that bid of wherever it was. Where was it now? Seems to have vanished. Oh, I think I chose a different date range. Hang on. Last 30 days. Yeah. Instead of turning remarkably bright creatures off, I might just change the bid, make it a bit lower, rather than killing it completely. Okay. Another thing that I watch for is, we might not have any here. If I'm sorting here on orders equals 0. I'm looking for targets that haven't generated any orders lately and maybe have also had quite a lot of clicks. So we're looking for money wasters. Okay, so what I've got now is this one here, bestsellers novel. In the last 30 days, it's had 17 clicks and 0 orders. Our rule of thumb is that when you get 20 clicks and no orders, you turn it off. But once again, I would probably check the last 60, 90 days just to be sure that it wasn't a temporary lull. But that's a good way to keep your spending down, is when it gets to 20 clicks, if you haven't had a sale, turn it off. Conversely, if you've got a target that's doing really well, it's getting great conversion rate and a really low cost of sale, you may want to increase your bid. And I don't usually do it if it's only had one sale and one click. Okay, I might look for something that's had, interesting, we're at here, best-selling books 2024 fiction, had 4 sales from 14 clicks, a very low cost of sale. That one I might want to try and do better on. So in fact, I could increase the bid there to try to get more impressions on that keyword. Right. So there's lots of finagling when we work with our clients. We're going in here and manually making assessments and adjustments to the bids on a regular basis to try to get the best results for our clients. Okay, one more thing we want to just quickly look at is, this is a very cool report. It's the search terms report. This tells you some amazing information. It tells you what the customers are typing into the search engine when they see your ad. Okay, so you have this data here, and they type in 10 best books of 2023, and it matches our keyword of best book. So it's not an exact match. It's what's called a broad match. But you'll start to see some trends here. And once again, if you click on the orders column twice, you're going to see which keywords resulted in sales for you. Okay, so there's our best 5 right there. Best sellers books 2025. It matched our keyword of that. And so what my team has done is they've added that phrase now as a new keyword. And they've added, they haven't added that one yet. I don't know why. And they've added that phrase. You can see there, it's now a keyword. So once you discover good keywords, you can add them as new keywords, and you'll find that you'll hone in on them a little bit better. So there's some wonderful data in here. You can also see, if we keep going down here, there will be some down in here where there are no orders. So you want to keep an eye on these. And if you find that you're wasting a lot of money on some of these, what you can do is you can actually add these as what's called a negative keyword, which means your ad will never display on that search again. So that's something that you could do. You might even want to make your own titles negative keywords if you don't want to be paying for advertising for people who are browsing your own books. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot to learn here. We could probably do another hour, Jane, on all of this stuff. I do just want to quickly show you one more thing. This is another client who has a series, because some of you would have a series. She's doing extremely well with her Amazon ads. Since October 2023, we're only running 2 ad campaigns. And what I wanted to show you here, if I just jump into maybe her products ad, because we didn't look at a product ad yet. I wanted to show you how we're advertising the entire series in the ads. You can see we have 32 products that we are actually advertising in the same ad. And what that does is that it has the effect of dominating the ad carousel. So there's all the different titles that are being advertised in the same ad. Most of the impressions and clicks are going naturally to book 1 of the series. Okay, but if somebody sees an ad for a Teresa Burrell book, they're going to see not just one ad out of those 58 screens of ads, but they'll see her book 1 on one carousel, and then they click, and then they see the next ad and the next ad and the next ad, and so they get multiple brand impressions. And that's what we're trying to achieve here, is multiple brand impressions of the ads. So advertise all your books in the series. And I'll just show you quickly what targeting looks like on a product ad. So instead of keywords, we are targeting individual books, and you set them up by putting in the ASIN of the book that you want to target. Okay, so we've got a lot of individual books there that we've learned over time, and we're also targeting specific categories of books that are related. And these are great ways to start your ads out, because by targeting a category, you start learning which books in those categories provide the best results for you, and then you can hone in on those particular books. So you can see here that we've got some pretty good results in terms of some of these categories, but not all, Now, interesting with this, you might look at this and say, well, hang on a minute, Geoff, why are we seeing 250%? Why are we seeing 4,000%? That's not good. Different animal. We've got a series and we've got Kindle Unlimited. So 16,000 page reads came from 286 clicks along with 31 orders. If this is a 300-page novel, which I believe it is, 16,000 page reads represents about 60 people reading the entire book. And it's probably more than that, because not everyone would have finished it. Okay, so if that's about 60 people, you add the 60 to the 31, now you've got 91 orders from 286 clicks. That's a really good conversion rate. That's like 1 out of every 3 people that are clicking are either buying or reading the book in Kindle Unlimited. Okay, so don't be worried about big ACOS numbers when you have a series. Again, we got 17,000 here. We got 45,000 page reads here. These are very big numbers, and that's where she's making most of her royalties, is on the page reads. So that does not include the read through, by the way. That's just directly page reads attributed to the ad clicks. Okay, so that's just a little bit on that. So I'm going to stop there. I could go on all day. As you can see, I'm pretty passionate about this stuff, and I'm looking forward to your questions. I wasn't going to do a big pitch. That's not my style, James. So I just want to say one thing. If this is overwhelming for you, or if you would rather be writing your next book than mucking around with all of that, I have an option for you where we can manage your Amazon ads for you. So it's a very simple process. There's a way for you to grant editor access to us in your dashboard, which means we can do your ads, but we can't see your credit card, and we can't go shopping on your Amazon account, and we can't get into your KDP account, nothing like that. We just manage your ads. You're responsible for the ad budget, obviously. I'd recommend $15 to $20 a day. Anything less than that, it's probably not worth it. And we charge $197 a month for the service of managing and optimizing your ads. That's for one market, usually the US. If you want to do 2 markets, then it's double. And if you have more than one series, well, obviously it would have to be additional cost for that. But just for, one book, one series, one market, 197 a month plus the ad costs. There's a 297 setup cost, and that's it. So if that's something of interest to you, I can put a URL in the chat, or maybe Jane, you're probably a better typer than I am, geoffaffleck.com/ads, and you can jump over there and read up on it. There's an opportunity for you to book a 15-minute quick call with me where we can have a chat and see if it makes sense for you. Okay, that's it.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Just a quick question before I dive into the full Q&A.
Yeah.
People were very surprised to see you using bestseller, New York Times bestseller, best-selling books as keywords. I think everyone felt like, are you really allowed to do that unless if the book's not a New York Times bestseller, you're allowed to do
Totally.
that?
Absolutely. Obviously. Yeah, I know. I know. And I don't think that book was a New York Times bestseller, but I think you can't use those as keywords in your regular metadata,
Right,
but the rules that apply to your Amazon 7 keywords do not
right.
apply on Amazon ads. We can use author names, titles,
Yeah.
anything you want, really. I've never had a keyword rejected. So the only ones that get rejected, and actually the whole ad gets rejected, if you're advertising something like erotica, you're just not allowed. So there are certain types of books you can't advertise, that being one of them. Anything with really gory covers, sexual covers, even self-help where you're making claims about healing.
Mm,
Sometimes those ads get banned as well. So
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm glad you pointed out the thing about how, with metadata keywords, you can't use false information like New York Times bestseller, but there are
Mm.
no such restrictions on advertising keywords.
Mm-mm.
I think that's where the confusion might come from.
Yeah. Hmm.
All right, so digging into the Q&A, Peggy is wondering if there is an algorithm penalty if you only jump in and run a seasonal campaign. So in other words, is it more effective to be
Oh,
consistent year round rather than
good.
let's say
It's
like
a
a
good.
holiday campaign?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I don't know, Peggy. I just don't know that. I'm just trying to think from experience. We do have some authors who have Christmas books or that sort of thing, and they usually do quite well. It doesn't seem to take long to train the algorithm, but of course, if you stop your ads and then nothing's happening for 10 months, it may just take a little bit to ramp up again. But yeah, it'd be interesting to research into that a little bit if I could.
And if there's an author who, let's say they're a debut, there's like no history, the review
Mm,
numbers are very low, like they're
right.
really starting from scratch.
Mm.
Is there anything you would advise or anything that you would do differently in trying to ramp that up? You did
Yeah,
mention the
that's a very
costs
good
can be
point.
higher, so
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. Amazon ads usually almost always work better for books that are already selling. And the rule of thumb I would say is a bestseller rank of 100,000 in either Kindle or books. That indicates the sales velocity to be about one a day. So if you're selling one book a day, you've got something going on. If you have less than that, it's a little harder to get traction with your ads, because you don't have a lot of history in the regular Amazon algorithm. In that case, what I would do, before I run ads, I would do the following. First of all, I would optimize my Amazon product page and metadata as best I could. We always do that, and it's actually one of the things we include in our ad service is a review of your product page and give you concrete recommendations on what to fix. So things like, do you have a good subtitle with some keywords in it, especially with KDP, you can always go in and change that. Your book blurb, Amazon A plus content, the 7 keywords, even the right categories, all of that stuff is important. And as you just mentioned, reviews. Usually I like to start with 25 reviews before I advertise, or at least 25 ratings. Hopefully, in the above 4.1 or 4.2 is important, because we know reviews are really important for that conversion rate. So we can always get clicks for people it's the biggest problem people have is not so much getting clicks, but getting conversions, turning clicks into sales. And that's always the product page, right? That's not the ads job to make sales. The ads job is to give you clicks. Your book's product page job is to get you sales. And that's where your book blurb, your A plus content, your reviews, your price all come into play. So work on, maybe you need to do something to get more reviews, whether it's ARC readers, whether it's Pubby, whether it's um, bugging your friends. I don't know. Maybe you got to do if you're in KDP Select, do a free campaign and try to generate some more reviews that way. Do a BookBub deal. Anything you can. All of that will help stimulate the algorithm, and therefore you get better results from your ad campaigns.
You mentioned earlier some types of books that you can't really advertise.
Mhm.
Janet is wondering if you can speak to things that make Amazon reject an ad. And it sounds like it's connected to the genre or to the
Yeah.
cover or to claims on the cover.
Yeah. If you just do a search for that, it was Janet, I think you said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
do a search for that. What is it? Amazon ads, terms and conditions, or something like that. Guidelines. They have a whole list of, it looks like a legal document of what you can and can't say. Um, we find more than half the time when an ad gets rejected that if we probe a little bit and ask why, because they'll just say it doesn't comply to our terms and well, what exactly doesn't comply? Get on chat with someone, find out, and then often you can change it. Sometimes it's just a word in your book description that they don't
Oh,
like
okay.
a self-help book about managing stress, and you've happened to have said, um, and heal your stress forever. Well, you can't say that. So you change it to manage your stress, and it's okay. So sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's the cover is just a bit too gory or racy. If
Mhm.
your book is in an erotica category, forget it.
Yeah.
You just won't be allowed. Um, Health books sometimes have issues with health claims. So you just have to be careful about using words like heal and
Yeah.
cure, that sort of thing. But yeah, those are the main things that, but 95% of books are allowed to be advertised. It's funny how you can sell books, but you can't advertise. I never quite understood that. Why would they? I mean, they sell a lot of smutty stuff on Amazon, but you just can't advertise it.
Well, I think that's why TikTok
Oh,
has become so
political books
popular.
too. Political, that's another
Oh,
another one. Yeah, if it
interesting.
if you're kind of expressing a political opinion, or even dealing with a sensitive issue, there was quite a few COVID books weren't allowed up back in that time.
Mm.
Anything sort of controversial. Mhm.
Renee is wondering if a newbie should start just for a US audience, and I'm going to assume that
Yeah,
Renee is based in the US.
yeah, I
And
think I think so.
is there
It's
a
the
point at
biggest
which,
audience. It's the biggest audience. They're the most active on Amazon of all the countries. Although Canada is kind of a little US. We are the 51st state after all. So Canada's not a bad place to do some testing either. I'll tell you what's good about Canada if you're American is the exchange rate's fantastic, and the cost per clicks are usually lower. So if you have to pay 60 cents in the US, you might pay 50 Canadian cents, which is
Mhm.
about 35 US cents. So that's not a bad place, and it's very much a similar, market. And then check your book, if you're writing, I don't know, something that's sort of more like British crime detective books, you might find the UK is a better market for you. Um, but yeah, usually just do one market at a time and then scale up. Jason with the basketball books, we started in the US, and then he started noticing organic sales were happening in other countries. So now we're advertising in the UK, Australia, Germany,
Mhm.
and Canada, and not doing anywhere near the numbers of the US, but it's combined, it's worth it. Probably picks up another 100 sales a month from those countries.
Wow.
Yeah, so worth
And
scaling up if you can.
is setting up a campaign in those other territories, is it basically the same
It's
process?
absolutely identical. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No problem. And they've now got a feature where you can see on your dashboard all the campaigns from all the countries on the one screen. If you want, they have that ability to see a multi-country view, which makes it a little easier to manage, so you're not having to log in and out of different countries.
Mm.
Hmm.
Peggy's wondering, when Amazon ads don't work, do you find that there's a common theme
Hmm.
or a common root cause?
Yep. Yeah, we've got a few of them. Okay, so first big problem people have when they say they don't work is that they don't get enough impressions. Like, I'm running these ads and they're just not getting impressions. So um, try fixed bids. Make sure that your bids are, as much as possible, are within the suggested range. Don't be too low, or else you might not get any love. Those are the big ones. Hopefully your budget's $10 a day. If your budget's $3 a day, you might not get much action. So there's usually some things you can do to get more impressions. If you're getting impressions, but you're not getting clicks, and again, 1 in 1,000 is all we're looking for. So don't be dismayed if you only get 1 in 1,000 or 2 in 1,000. If you're not getting enough clicks, check your targets. Do you have enough targets? Are they relevant? I've seen some ads and it's like, why have you only got 7 keywords? There's no way you're going to get any clicks with 7 keywords. Do you have enough targets? Do you have the right targets? Are the books that you're targeting popular? If you're targeting books that are a million ranking on the bestseller list, well, no one's going there, so you're not going to get any clicks. So you want to find those targets that are, maybe not too competitive because they'll be too expensive, but books like yours, maybe they're also independently published and they're ranking okay. Those are really good ones as long as they're, kind of similar. Yeah, so check that out. Now, if you're getting impressions and you're getting clicks, but you're not getting sales, and you're getting that 10 to 1 or even 20 to 1 to start with, then it's probably, oh, sorry, back up. One more thing. If you're not getting clicks, get some independent advice on your cover.
Yeah.
It might be your cover. It might just not pop on those little thumbnails. It might not look like other books in your genre. Maybe that you can't read it because there's not enough contrast. You might need to change your cover up. Okay, so assuming you're getting clicks now, but you're not getting orders, well, that usually goes back to your product page. So price, reviews, book blurb, A+ content. And so I always start there, actually, reverse engineer it. Start with the product page and then work your way backwards. Okay.
We'll do two more questions.
Yeah.
Peggy asks, does the sales velocity and approach work the same if you're traditionally published
Mhm.
or self-published?
Yeah, I don't see there would be any difference. Yeah. Yeah. Amazon ads or any kind of advertising that works is going to stimulate sales, and as you get more sales, you're gonna get more recommendations. That's really what we're trying to do is get the recommendations and the read through if you've got other books, especially in a series. And if you have a series, I'd say that's a really good reason to do Amazon ads, because we see it so often that, like, we didn't really drill into that mysteries series that I had up there, but boy, she's got 19 books in that series, and
Mhm.
you know, the ads for her are just in a way they're a lost leader, because I know she spends more on ads than she earns directly from the ads, but that's because her ebook's 99 cents on book one. She makes 35 cents, but if they're great stories, people just keep reading, and of course they're
Right.
paying $3.99 for the rest of them, or $4.99 or
Yeah.
something, or we're reading them in Kindle Unlimited. So you really have to think about your ads in terms of your overall strategy. But as you saw, two of those books I showed you today were standalones, and they're profitable on their own. So it's possible. Mhm.
Last question from Deborah. How do you evaluate your success if you are running ads on more than one platform? So she's doing well
Oh
with
yeah.
Facebook ads and doesn't want to
Okay.
stop, but
No.
when she runs both, she finds it hard to judge those additional organic sales.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And I'm just trying to see if I can give you a good answer. Where is it? There. Um,
Oh, sorry, I already dismissed it. My apologies.
that's okay. No, with what I would do, was it Deborah?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Is Deborah, check out Amazon attribution. Amazon attribution is a feature in Amazon ads that allows you to track the results from Facebook or YouTube or wherever else you're advertising in your Amazon dashboard. Um, so you can generate a unique tracking link. I might be able to show you here. If you go to your Amazon ads dashboard over here under, I think it's under measurement and reporting, you'll see Amazon attribution. So you click in there and you set up an Amazon attribution tracking link for let's say your Facebook ads. Okay, so you would create a campaign and follow through. It's pretty simple. So you pick the book that you want to track results on or books, and basically you're gonna give it a name and these are the different sources of ads. So you say it's an Instagram ad, and you put in the link and of the that you're using in the ad, and Amazon will give you a long tracking link, and you take that tracking link, you put it in your Amazon ad, or sorry, in your Facebook ad or your Instagram ad, and then you can go into that dashboard and see how many clicks that ad generated and how many sales it generated. So then you can extrapolate and so say, well, these are my total sales, and then I got this many from Facebook and this many from Instagram and this many from BookBub, and then you can sort of work it out that way. There's a really cool app too. Just lost the name of it. Do you know what, Jane? What's that? There's an app that I always if I can think of it, I will before the end of the hour here. Anyway, there's a great app that you can use that takes your KDP revenue, your ad spend, any other ad spend, and puts it all into one app and gives you amazing statistics.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
I gotta find it. Oh boy, it's called KDP something,
if we can remember it later, I'll put it in the show notes on YouTube.
Yeah,
Um,
it's great.
um, Deborah jumped back into the chat and says she's really struggling with the organic sales attribution. So it sounds like she really wants to be able to attribute every single sale that's not ad linked to how, why, when, where, which I don't think we
Uh-huh.
have that level of magic yet.
Yeah. Um, Try KDP Champ.
Ooh,
Pretty
KDP
sure
chat.
that's what it is. They might have changed the name now to
Oh,
Publisher Champ.
Publisher champ. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, looks like they've changed their name, but Publisher Champ. Yep, that's the one. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool app.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, some places just won't let you use a tracking link. Like, if you want to do a promotion on, Bargain Booksy or something, you can't use a tracking link with them. Some of those sites allow you to do it. I think that might be because they use Amazon Associates links when they send out their emails because they make a little
Right.
commission.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to substitute that for one of your tracking links. But anyway, I think if you're doing just some, only two or three other sources of ads, you could even set up a tracking link on your own website if you wanted to see how many sales your
Yeah.
own website was generating on
Yeah.
Amazon. Yeah, I mean, it's a
And
great thing to do because they, as we say, is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and that's really important.
as someone who's really invested in email newsletters, I would say if you've got an email newsletter sign up associated with your books or your website, a great question to ask people when they sign up is, how did you hear about me?
Hmm.
That can give you a little bit of extra information too. Sometimes it's word of mouth, like just a friend
Yeah,
recommendation. So,
yeah.
all right, we're going to end it there. Geoff, this has been
Mhm.
so useful. And it was also just a very human presentation. Like, it wasn't filled with a lot of acronyms or marketing jargon. It was like so transparent and clear how it works.
Well,
So thank you.
I've always if I look at the common threads through my work life, I've always been a teacher of some kind. Never a school teacher, but a ski instructor. So you're taking very technical terms and trying to break it down for holiday makers. I was a sales trainer for a telecom company, and
Oh,
you're trying to take complex technical stuff and make salespeople understand it. So it's I guess it's just what I like to do is try to try to not dumb it down, but just yeah, give people a sense for okay, what does this mean in reality, you know?
right, exactly. I felt like I could do it if I took the
Good.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, once again, if anyone wants to have a chat, please take advantage of that. Go to geoffaffleck.com/ads, and there's a link there to book a quick call. I would just ask if you want to do that. I would prefer that you're in a position where you have 25 reviews if you're thinking about our ad service, and the budget is also possible for you. And then we'd be more than happy to see if it makes sense.
Terrific. Thank you again, Geoff. This has been excellent.
Okay.
And thank you all for joining me today. I hope to see
Yes.
you again soon.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Jane. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.